Now, Seles may have been equally well known for this, the sound of a Monica Seles point. That's Monica Seles' famous loud grunt through a pretty long rally there when striking the tennis ball, and opponents like Graf and Martina Navratilova managed to turn it to their advantage ultimately. Seles eventually came back, if you don't know the story, from the stabbing, and her tennis career actually lasted until 2003 on the court. She just officially retired from the circuit last year, and now Monica Seles has a memoir called Getting a Grip on My Body, My Mind, Myself. It is my pleasure to welcome Monica Seles to WNYC. Hello.
Hi, Brian. Thanks so much for having me on your show. So excited to be here today.
Did you win that point?
Probably. I hope so, at least.
Chances are, given your career, that you won the point.
Yeah.
You know, and I really want to ask you first about the grunt, because personally, I was a fan of your grunting. Were you trained to do that as a kid?
No, not at all, Brian. I mean, I started playing tennis when I was a little girl at age 6, and I grunted pretty much from day one because I was very tiny. I was always on the smaller side, and I put every single ounce of my energy into that ball. So I grunted throughout my junior tournaments, and really even in professional tennis, way before any of the other players started complaining about it. The only difference was that by that point I was #1 in the world.
And I had forgotten, because I hadn't heard it in so long until we played that clip. The grunt was 2 syllables.
Well, I didn't even notice that I was grunting, but at the Wimbledon tennis tournament down in London, England, they actually brought out a gruntometer. Although I wish I could take credit for being the first person to grunt in a tennis match, but unfortunately Jimmy Connors started doing it before I was even born.
Absolutely right, and nobody gave him a hard time. You know, I have a friend who considers himself a Zen baseball coach. He calls himself, and he actually trains hitters, especially mild-mannered ones, to grunt when they swing the bat as if they're doing a martial arts move, like, ha, when you connect with the ball for more power and authority. So you could probably relate to that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in my case, it really was just something natural. I've never thought about doing it, not doing it, besides one match, which was Wimbledon, when they wanted to fine me for grunting, etc. And for me, it was just the way I play tennis. It's my individuality. And, thanks to my father, he always said, be an individual. And, that was kind of my trademark throughout my tennis career.
And you tell the story in the book about how you did it for years and years, but then in some big matches, your opponents, like Steffi Graf and Martina, started to complain to the referees, who actually made you tone it down. Was there a rule?
No, there was no rule. And, I played Wimbledon many years beforehand and other Grand Slams, and nobody complained. Those same players I played a few weeks before and didn't complain. But unfortunately, I was playing such good tennis that they just had to find any single thing to, I think, try to rattle my mental concentration. And unfortunately, they succeeded, but thankfully only for that single tournament.
And you write that toning down the grunts was one of the few things you ever regretted in your life. That's quite
Correct,
a thing.
Right, yes. Yeah, unfortunately, I was 17 years old, and I was like, oh, I want to make sure everybody likes me. And then once I realized that, you got to be an individual, whatever it is, whatever makes you win that point. And for me, it was part of my game, and this is who I was. And some people liked it, some didn't, but I wasn't out there to please people. I was out there to win tennis tournaments.
Tennis great Monica Seles, my guest on WNYC, her new memoir, Getting a Grip. The stabbing, you were 20?
I was actually 19 years old when I got stabbed. I was playing on the tennis court over in Germany, and I was doing a changeover when a fan of my rival decided out of the blue to stab me. And, I look back as one of the most difficult times in my life.
You say your rival. It wasn't the player.
No, a fan of hers.
A fan of
hers, yes. I took away 2.5 years from the sport before I decided to come back. Unfortunately, my time away, I put on 20 pounds too. So when I came back, I was a different person and a different player because of it. So it definitely had a huge impact on my game, but also on my life.
Was it harder to come back to tennis physically or emotionally?
I think a combination of really both. I was at the top of my game when that happened. Physically, it injured me for quite some time. Then mentally also too. So, I tried to do my best, and I realized at the end of the day that I love to play tennis, that I shouldn't let anybody else take that away from me, and really one of the most of the things that I'm so proud that I ended up coming back at age 21 and won a Grand Slam and really still had a wonderful tennis career.
Are there steroids in tennis?
Oh, I don't know. In my case, I've never taken a single supplement in my life, and I talk about that in my book, that I really wanted to do everything naturally, same way I wanted to lose my weight naturally, and I achieved that, and that's what I talk about in my book, getting a grip, that I didn't want to be dependent on a diet or on a supplement. I wanted to do it the natural, organic way, and that's one of the great things I'm so proud of, that now for about 5.5 years, I've lost 37 pounds and have been able to maintain it.
Do you think others are using or have used performance-enhancing drugs of any type? Would there be any reason that tennis is immune if it's going on in all these other sports?
I really, don't know. I mean, as a tennis player, I had my own little cocoon around me, my trainer and my coach. And that was it. Tennis is not a buddy-buddy sport. I really never hung out with any other player, so I really don't know. I just worried about what I was doing because I was under so much pressure and I was battling my own demons, which I mentioned in my book, my addiction to food. So I had so many other issues going on in my life that, I couldn't get a grip on, that I couldn't worry about the outside stuff.